I would like to welcome you all from Brussels, from the European Council meeting. Today, I met with my co-workers. The meeting was announced by the President of the European Commission, Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, and her team. In accordance with the proposal of the European Commission will stop the import of gas from the Russian Federation to all member states of the European Union. This is a well-known legislation of the European Commission under the name Repower EU. I must emphasize that this is an extremely serious proposal of the European Commission, which will have an extremely negative impact on the price of gas in Slovakia, whether for households or for the industry, but it will certainly lead to a decrease in the competitiveness of the entire European Union, not to mention Slovakia, as a country where there is a huge concentration of car production and where the industry is a key part of the gross domestic product. This is a serious problem. I also confirm the fact that the conclusion of the proposal we are talking about today is a clear mention of Slovakia, precisely in this context because the Commission is fully aware of what this proposal for January 1st, 2028 can do for Slovakia. That is why I am glad that Slovak employees are joining this position of the European Commission. I have seen several public statements of representatives of Slovak employees, and perhaps the only one who supports this ideological and harmful proposal of the European Commission is the Slovak opposition and the anti-government media. I am very happy that we had a very constructive and pragmatic conversation with the President, who is fully aware of the consequences of this decision for countries such as Slovakia and Hungary. That is why we were able to focus on 4 or 5 basic questions, which are extremely important to us. First of all, we all know that if the European Commission overrides this proposal, and probably overrides it, because in this case, a qualified majority will vote, and we will vote against it, the proposal will pass. In practice, this will mean that there will be no flow from east to west, but that Slovakia will be supplied with gas from other sources, from the north, from the south, and from the west. But this will mean a significant increase in transit fees for Slovakia. So the first question we asked ourselves is whether we can adjust so that the gas that will come to Slovakia from various countries has the same transit fee and does not increase transit fees compared to what we pay now. The second basic issue we dealt with, of course, was the price of commodities. Experts in energy technology in Slovakia, but also employers, point out that if the flow of gas from Russia to Europe is stopped, the price of commodities will also increase. If we reduce the price of commodities and add even higher transit fees, the price will fly out to households of maybe 30 to 50%. These are estimates confirmed by the chairman of the Board of Regulatory Affairs, or the SPP, or other significant energy companies. The third topic we discussed with the chairwoman was whether we can imagine that member states of the European Union will be involved in the situation of helping Slovakia if it comes to a crisis situation precisely because of high prices in gas on the market. Then there is the question of compensation, because we will have to find money to compensate Slovak households and Slovak industry, because neither industry nor households can afford it. And then we got to the candy, and this candy may be a complaint filed against Slovakia by the Russian company Gazprom. We have a contract signed with this company on the supply of Russian gas until 2034. And the European Commission forces us to stop accepting it until January 1st, 2028. This contract with the Russian company Gazprom is based on the principle of take or pay. This means that the Russian company Gazprom will be compensated by Slovakia, and the probable price of this compensation will be from 16 to 20 billion euros. So we asked the chairwoman of the European Commission, what if we lose such a judicial dispute? Who will pay us the 16 or 20 billion euros that we will have to pay the Russian Federation and Russian companies? Of course, These are questions that the European Commission does not yet know the answer to. I want to appreciate the constructive approach of the chairwoman, but also the whole European Commission, because the European Commission has a special mission in Slovakia next week. I recommend that you do not meet with politicians, but meet with representatives of the Slovak business. Meet with representatives of associations that provide or protect the interests of small consumers, that is, households. Let them listen to reality, although the European Commission knows well what this proposal will mean. I do not mind that we are going this way, because it is evidently an ideological proposal. At all costs, the European Union wants to stop the flow of gas from Russia to Europe. I even think that the European Commission does not even have a mandate for such a legislation, because in 2022, the so-called Versailles Resolution was adopted, which talked about a gradual suspension or reduction of dependence on Russian gas. That is, a complete suspension of the supply of Russian gas. Dear friends, so that it is completely clear, our position is that we can never vote for such a legislative act. Unfortunately, this time, the Commission wants to avoid the need for unanimity, as is the case with sanctions. We will follow the path of the legislative act, where a qualified majority is enough. So it is practically certain that the states that want it will also pass such a proposal. And what will harm us? Only that such an agreement with the European Commission would be reached, which would compensate us for all the damage that comes to the EU. So we will not vote for this act. We will continue to consider very constructively with the Commission what the Commission can do for us to eliminate the damage that will be caused by this ideological proposal in Slovakia, and at the same time, how to eliminate further reduction of the competitiveness of the European Union as a whole. As I mentioned to the President of the European Commission, because we want to be predictable, that tomorrow at the meeting of the majority, where the 18th sanctioned package against the Russian Federation will be decided, we will ask for postponing the vote on this package due to the fact that the legislative act itself on the suspension of the supply of gas on January 1st, 2028 is considered a sanction with far-reaching consequences. Therefore, it is necessary to finish this whole thing first, to tell each other what the solution will be, and then we can talk about some other sanction packages. If there are no meetings for this proposal tomorrow, postpone the vote until this basic problem is resolved. The Parliament of the Slovak Republic will receive a clear instruction, a clear order to veto the adoption of the 18th sanction package. Have a nice evening from Brussels. We will probably be here until late at night.